Hello and welcome to Pain in the Podcass, your place to find out everything you've ever wanted to know about pain. My name's Dr. Joseph Parsons, and I'm joined by the wonderful Dr. Joshua Craw and Don Soria. And today we're going to be talking about weather and pain. Welcome in.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Pain in the Podcast. Today we're going to talk about weather and pain. Ooh. Not whether you feel pain, but like weather as in it's raining outside.
It's not raining outside, it's absolutely fucking glorious.
It's a beautiful day. It is a lovely English summer day.
It's a shame you can't see it.
And by the time this gets released, it's probably going to be dreary and miserable.
Yeah, I think this episode's coming out sometime around October or November, so yeah, not going to be sunny by then.
So, as always, we'd like to start off with our facts for the week. So, I'll go first. And my fact is, my car has officially died, and I've had to buy a new car. I feel like all I really talk about is my car, but
yeah.
Yes.
Josh, you know, back in episode, I think 14, you played the last post on the Bugle when we ran out of injection laxatives.
Yeah.
Can we have a sort of a funeral march on the recorder for Don's car?
We can certainly have a try.
I've got a new car, and I need a new name for it now.
Felicia.
Ooh.
No, it's definitely a man. It's definitely a boy. It's a boy car.
Is it?
It's blue. It's a
Felicia.
little Ford Fiesta hatchback. And so far, I am leaning towards. So this car, it's a lot more mature than my old car. It just feels more mature. It feels a bit more grown up. And so because of that, I don't know why, but I'm leaning towards Bruce. And when I discussed this with my friend, and when I was asking her what she thinks the name should be, before I even mentioned what I thought it should be, she also mentioned Bruce.
Wow.
And so I would like to know what you guys think it should be called, and also what the audience would like it to be called.
Can we put a picture of your car, but with the number plates blurred, and people can name the car?
Yes. I can like hold my driving license certificate next to the car, but it's parked really badly on double yellows, because for some reason I see so many of these people on like Facebook posting their certificates, but they're parked completely illegally.
Yeah. Damn. So it's like, I've passed my test. Now I will break all the rules.
I think I'd call you car Jeff.
I was also thinking Jeff, but I'm thinking Jeoff.
Ooh.
I'm thinking like
Hefe.
No, Geoff. That's like.
Oh,
wait, isn't
G,
that the normal?
J. Sorry.
No.
Yeah.
No,
isn't that the normal spelling?
Yeah, but like
of
American
Jeff?
spelled like Jeff.
Oh yeah, no.
So I'm thinking it's definitely like an old British
proper,
man.
Proper Jeff, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we're both going for Jeff then.
I don't know. Is it Jeff?
So we've got. Oh, but he spells it Jeff. Yeah. So we've got 2 votes so far for Jeff and 2 for Bruce.
Yep.
So if you've got any alternative suggestions, or do you want to add to the Jeff versus Bruce?
Or we could do a poll.
We could do a poll.
Yeah.
But we can add your own option to the poll. Shall I go next?
Yeah, go ahead.
My fact about myself this week is that I have never once in my adult life fit into a bath.
You are a long boy.
I am a long boy. Even those, like, you know, the corner baths, I've tried to, like, fit sideways with just my head out the water.
What is a corner bath?
Where there's the bath in a corner. You know, it's like curved.
Oh,
it fills the whole corner.
My
it's a right
mistake.
angle.
I was imagining like a kidney bean shaped bath.
Oh, that would be really cool. But no, I've literally never fit into a bath. So when I have a bath at the minute, our bath is maybe like 4.5, 5 feet long. And so the only way that I can fit into it and submerge my whole upper body is to sit with my feet up against the wall where the taps are. So I have like my legs are almost at a right angle up against the wall, out of the water, so that I can submerge my top half.
Wait, but now that I think about it, I don't really fit in a bath, and I'm tiny.
Yeah, but like you can submerge your whole body just by bending your knees, right?
Yeah, but then the knees are above the water.
Yeah, but I have to I can't, even with fully bent knees, I can't fit my upper body in the bath. So I have to have my legs out of the bath, up on the side of the wall. You know what, I'll put swimming trunks on, and I'll post a picture so you can see.
I can imagine this, but wouldn't you just drown?
Oh no, I keep my head out of the water. Or I sit there, sometimes I submerge fully down, so I've got my ears submerged, so it's just my nose and mouth
I do like
out
that
of the
feeling,
water.
yeah.
That's nice.
The trick is, if you need to be submerged, you lay prone and then you bend your legs.
Yeah, but I'm not going to lay prone in a bath because it curves at the end. So I'm
Prone,
breaking
for
my neck.
those of you like me, means like facing down in the bath.
On your tummy.
On your tummy.
So there you go. I've never fit into a bath in my adult life. Josh, what's your
You would be a
this week?
psycho to do that. Prone.
Yeah, that would be absolutely insane.
That's the way I bath.
Okay.
Or
Please.
bathe.
Psycho.
Okay, Josh, is that your fact?
That's not my fact. So, yeah, my fact for this week is, I suppose I'll go around the broken things rabbit hole, which is my phone. Like, I'm a very much a don't buy it unless it's broken type of chap. I don't fix it unless it's broken, rather. I've had my phone for over 5 years. It's still going strong.
The shocking part of that is that it's an Android.
I still think Android's better than iPhone. It's a hill I'll die on.
It's a hill I'll also die on next to you.
Arm in arm with phones that aren't particularly quick, but are relatively robust.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, iPhone users won't really die on a hill. They'll die on like a mansion somewhere on a hill.
No, they'll die unable
I'm
to
joking.
afford a house
I was
because
about
they
to
crossed
say,
their
debt.
contract. Right. Don, what have you learned about yourself this week?
I've learned that I've recently stopped playing badminton because my injuries have caught up to me. And it's just getting too painful, and I get really, really frustrated and very, like, verbally annoyed at myself on the court. I don't yell at other people, I just yell at myself. And so I thought I needed a long break from it. And instead, what I've been doing is going to the gym and swimming. And whilst that first swim was absolutely just traumatic, I swam one length of 25 meters. Because there was an aqua aerobics class at the end, so they didn't have the full 33 meters. And the aqua aerobics class looked really, really fun. Actually, I might try that. But yeah, so I swam one length of 25 meters, and this was just a warm up. So I went at a fairly slow pace, but I was completely exhausted by the end of it. Like I could feel the entire front of my body. Like it was like I had just done a massive belly flop off a 100-meter diving board, and every single muscle was so sore. After just that first length, and I was completely out of breath. But in the span of I think half an hour, I managed to do 7 lengths, and I had to call it a day. And then I went to get a shower, and then this sudden wave just came over me, and I just needed to go and throw up, and I did. And I think that was just mostly the pool water.
Because
I swallowed.
Don swims like a whale eating krill. It's just mouth wide open. Don filters the pool. They don't need chlorine in the pool because Don is just filtering it through his body.
But what I've learned is that I am really enjoying swimming. Yeah, I like it. Even though the sauna is also really suffocating and just really, I really struggle to breathe in there. But no, it is really fun, and I'm enjoying it.
Good.
Yeah. What about you, Joe?
Mine is sadly very depressing. I'm currently on placement in a hospice, so working in palliative care, both in the hospice and in community. And I've learned that dealing with death at work is really hard. And I think I have a newfound respect. I've always had a lot of respect for Josh, but obviously working in emergency medicine, Josh sees a lot of people sort of at death's door or who pass away because he has very complicated cases to work on. And I think given the fact that the vast majority of my patients have passed away because they're in that palliative care setting during this placement, I think I've realised it's quite difficult to emotionally separate yourself from that enough that you can kind of cope with it, but not so much that you kind of lose the empathy for people, and you don't want to keep people. That's the time when they need the most empathy, but it's hard then to have given them so much empathy and support in those final few days of life, and then when they die, having to kind of switch it off. It's a really challenging balance to find.
It is. Yeah, it's difficult.
Like I feel like we could talk about that for a while because we all have to kind of experience that boundary when it comes to our work. Like we just have to go home, shut things off sometimes, and it's really difficult.
Yeah.
But yeah. What about you, Josh? What have you learnt?
My learning this week is that I burn like a fucking crisp.
Crispy.
Yeah, Josh does have like where he wears his watch, he's got like the most prominent tan line ever, and then above it, his skin is just peeling.
Should we maybe we could post this?
You can post a picture of that.
Yeah.
I'll take a picture now.
I think what's funniest about this is it's very clear that Josh was wearing the watch. But what's also clear is that he did attempt to put some sun cream on, but because of the watch, obviously the watch got in the way and he just kind of missed a little
So
bit.
I left the watch on whilst I was putting sun cream on.
Oh, no.
So let me pop it back on 1 second.
And there's just a big patch next to where his watch is that definitely didn't get any sun cream on.
Yeah, so you can see just around here.
It's just the edge bit where he didn't want to sun cream his watch, so he's got burned right around the watch, which makes it even more of a dramatic contrast between the completely pale and burned. It's a nice watch, though.
Thank
I
you.
like the strap, it's very pretty. It's green and red for people
I
listening,
don't.
but not in
It's
a
very
tacky way.
utilitarian.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's.
It's not pretty, Joe. It's a big man's watch.
You called me fat.
I called you big and man.
Either way, this episode, kind of the inspiration for it came from a couple of different things. So I was reading a book recently called Love After Love by Ingrid Persaud. I think it's pronounced Persaud.
Ingrid Persaud. Is she
I mean,
French?
she's Trinidadian.
Oh.
Or possibly
Could be.
Tobagan. But
Could be a French name.
don't know. It's a really beautiful kind of story of love and relationships and trauma and things. It's really well written. But one of the main characters said a line which was, "Remember how I broke them 2 bones years ago? Every now and then it will pain me, and if rainfall, worse yet." And it just made me think, oh shit. Yeah, there are a lot of people who say that weather and pain are related, including one of our previous guests, Chris Bridgeford, who, as part of the Scottish pain charity Afacer, did a little survey within the membership of Afacer, where he found that people seemed to feel that barometric pressure and changes in the pressure were really highly correlated with their pain. And so had a chat with the boys, and we decided that it's worth going a bit deeper into that and finding out if there's any links between weather and pain.
Yeah. So I suppose a good place to start is with studies on acute pain, because that seems to be where there is a lot of research. And I think there was a decent study from Tromsø in Norway, which looked at roughly 20,000 people. And it found that pain pressure thresholds were slightly higher in the colder months. However, it was only a weak correlation with that, so it only shows a weak sort of link with acute pain.
So just to explain what a pain pressure threshold is, this is when you're doing sort of studies of acute pain where you take healthy people and you're trying to induce pain in them. You basically have this probe that you'll put on their arm, their leg, their bum, wherever is appropriate for the study, and it applies greater and greater pressure, and you're basically reporting when you start to feel pain is your pain threshold, and when you can no longer deal with the pain is your pain tolerance. So you might hear us talk about that in other episodes. Threshold is where you start to feel pain, tolerance is where it becomes your limit of pain.
So when it was colder, that tolerance was higher?
Yeah, which, to be honest with you, I would have thought the opposite. You'll hear later on when we talk about things like arthritis, cold weather people usually associate with their pain being worse rather than being better.
But this was acute pain.
True.
So if you think, if you think about it, acute pain, ice on the injury, for example, and that
True.
helps it. And then chronic pain, you typically think, okay, you'd use heat to help it. So maybe that's somewhere.
Yeah.
Just thinking off the top of my head.
I thought this made quite a lot of sense, actually.
How come?
I don't know, I just thought it did.
Okay.
No, I mean, I just thought colder, there's usually like not less blood flow, but I don't know what you
Yeah,
two
there
you
would be
two
less
will be able
blood
to
flow.
tell me.
Yeah, that
more
also makes sense
accurately.
because less blood flow means less inflammatory cytokines to the peripheries.
Yeah. Or at least slowed down the process
Exactly.
temporarily. Yeah.
That's what I meant to say.
So if you have this gut feeling then, Don, about how weather affects pain, what do you think would happen to back or joint pain in response to rain? So more rain, what do you think would be the result?
Well, so I have a friend whose mum gets really bad migraines when it's about to rain. Obviously, I don't know the scientific backing behind this, but it's been fairly consistent. So I would say that rain and what was the other factor you mentioned?
So back pain or joint pain?
Yes, I'd say rain could have a fairly profound effect on back pain or joint pain.
Unfortunately, incorrect. A study of 11 million people in America who use Medicare, so I don't know if you guys have heard of Medicare, it's kind of one of the government Subsidised or funded? Subsidised.
I'm not 100%.
I want to say subsidised.
Yeah, healthcare programs.
Because Obamacare was meant to... Never mind.
was meant to be like Medicaid, Medicare.
Yeah, let's not go into that. I don't know
Either way,
everything
we don't
about
know
it.
much about American healthcare, but I think it's a government subsidised program. And there was a study of over 11 million people, and they found that the incidence of back pain or joint pain, like new presentations in primary care, didn't show any correlation with the amount of rain. But that's just one study, and it's just acute pain, so we'll get on to...
Okay, so I wasn't technically wrong.
And it was only 11 million people.
So Don's like, can we increase the sample size to perhaps 7.5 billion? But also, I think one of the things that we found was that there was a couple of studies that came out of Sydney, Australia as well, studying the link between different temperatures and weather conditions and pain.
So they test this against rain, temperature, relative humidity, wind speed, wind direction, and air pressure, and found that only a change of 5 degrees in temperature could predict acute pain onset.
So they found that a 5 degrees increase in temperature was associated with a 20% increase in the risk of new onset of acute pain. And so, again, that correlates quite well with that study in Tromsø of that when it's hotter, the pain or the ability to tolerate it seems to be worse.
Yeah, to be honest, when it's hot, I'm a hot mess. Genuinely, I cannot handle the heat.
No.
Like, if I was struggling with pain and it was a hot day, no.
But this is new.
I can see the
pain,
frustration on your face right now, just talking about it, and I'm feeling that frustration as well.
It's
I could
quite
like, I
hot
can
today
just,
as well.
I'm just envisioning myself on a really hot day. You're like getting back home after catching the bus or whatever, and you're just dealing with all that pain. I feel like that would just send me over the edge.
I'll tell you what, right, I was recently on a night shift. It was 5 a.m. and I walked into this ward and it was just sweltering. It was a care of the elderly ward. They had all the heating on. It must have been 30 degrees.
Ew.
Jeez. No. My tolerance just dropped.
We had I was working in an intermediate care setting as a therapy assistant, and in the great wisdom of the building designers, the radiators were all centrally controlled.
Oh,
so
no.
when you turn one on, they are all on.
Why? Why is it like this?
Who thought, we're going to save money here, guys, I promise you. In the long run, these £5 little knobs that will change the temperature independently, no. Get rid of them. We'll save £30, and I promise you, in the long run, it's all going to be fine.
But it's like the newly built office buildings and stuff as well. They're all centrally controlled as well.
Yeah,
It
who
just
asked
makes
for
no
this?
sense.
Who was like, I would like every human to be either freezing cold or way too warm.
I think there's somebody in a security office somewhere just watching the cameras and being like, okay, I know it's June or July. Let's put the heating on and see what happens.
We genuinely had the heating on. I was working there in April, and we had a bit of a heat wave in the UK in April, and they had the heating on. And so the office was just like 30 degrees at all times. And also, right, I was wearing NHS tunics at the time, so if anyone's seen sort of NHS uniforms, you might see like nurses wear them quite often, these tunics. And you're not meant to wear anything underneath, like obviously if you're wearing a bra or whatever, but tops, you're not meant to wear like an undershirt. And so if you sweat, it just kind of like drips out of the tunic. So you have to kind of like squeeze your armpits together. This is probably TMI, but so that it absorbs into the fabric rather than just dripping out the gap by your arm. It was really unpleasant.
And because of the colour, I feel like they are very prone to sweat patches. Yeah.
And how was your pain during this sweat lodge?
I don't know. I was just thinking about just keep breathing, just try and stay cool. Handheld fans, Either way, that increase in temperature was associated with an increase in acute pain onset. But another study from Sydney, looking at back pain patients specifically, looked again at all those different weather conditions about wind speed, direction, about pressure, temperature. And they found in a separate study that the only predictive factor for new onset back pain was an increase in wind speed of more than 11 kilometres an hour. Ooh. And they found that increased the risk of back pain by 17%.
Ooh, is that because when it's windy, you've got to fight more against the wind to stay upright, maybe, and then you're straining more muscles?
Possibly, I don't know. It's hard to know, isn't it? But
yeah, I mean, without reading the full study and going through everything and asking the patients, I suppose.
Yeah, they didn't make any suggestions into the study as to why it might be, but it is interesting. It's a good theory.
I suppose if it's windy, more likely for falling and...
Yeah, true. But they didn't control for confounding variables like that.
I have a question for you, Joe,
Mm-hmm.
and also for you, Josh. So with back pain,
Yeah.
what is the effect of that when you have a headache?
What do you mean?
When you've got a headache, does that affect your back pain?
Oh,
Does that exacerbate your back pain?
No, I don't think so for me.
I suppose I'd be thinking along. We've talked about the gating mechanism.
Yeah.
What's the gating
theory of
mechanism?
pain before. So like if you've got a headache, that might distract from your back pain maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, so gating mechanism is this
Right.
idea that other stimulus, usually touch, can sometimes help to tone down pain stimulus.
Right. Okay.
So maybe one pain. There's something called diffuse noxious inhibitory control, which, to make a complicated theory very simple, if you had a pain in your head and I kicked you in the shins, you probably feel less pain in your head because your body is diverting attention elsewhere.
But the reason I asked that was because I don't know. Sometimes when it's really, really windy, I know that some people can get a bit of a headache or something like that. And so I just thought maybe that might affect their back pain.
Interesting.
Is another reason the fact that when you're really cold, so like, just very cold temperatures, your kind of fingers, your toes, they kind of go a bit numb, and so you don't feel sensations as much, so you might not feel the pain as much.
That's an interesting theory. Although, have you ever been, like, when you were a kid at primary school and it had been, like, snowing or really cold, and you were maybe, like, playing in net in football or playing basketball, and it's freezing cold, and then something hits you right on the fingertips?
Yes.
There is literally nothing more painful on earth. Like, you could cut my leg off, and it's not as painful as that.
Yeah.
Absolute.
Yep, that is one of the
agony.
worst things ever, yeah. But like if you were to just insert like a little acupuncture needle thing, not that acupuncture needles hurt, but like a little needle when you're cold and your hands are really, really cold, would that hurt as much as
No,
when you were warm?
If anybody grew up in the 80s and 90s maybe as a teenager, you may remember, well, not me personally, but you may remember putting an ice cube on the ear and getting a safety pin to pierce their own ears.
Yeah.
Because of the numbing effect of cold.
One of my friends did that
It's-
in the 2020s. So, yeah.
Please don't do this at home, guys.
Why
Please, for
not?
the love of God.
Tetanus is real.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
That.
Now that we've talked about wind speed and how that can affect pain, it does remind me of a study on sickle cell, which showed that with an increase in wind speed of 10 kilometres per hour, there was an associated increase of 24% in occurrence of painful attacks in patients with sickle cell disease.
Wow. Well, I guess sickle cell, correct me if I'm wrong here, but because of the change in the shape of blood cells, it can reduce your oxygen carrying capacity.
Yeah, absolutely it does.
And I don't know about you guys, but if you've... This could sound really weird. Have you ever been out walking on a windy day and you're walking into the wind and, like, if you open your mouth to talk, it kind of, like, fills your mouth. It almost takes your breath away.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? I know it
Yes,
sounds
yes, yes.
silly, but
I've
is
not
that-
felt that. I've not gone through that in a very long time, but you just took me back to a very vivid memory.
Which was?
I think I was walking along a beach or something. I think it was a beach, and it was a really, really windy day, and at night, and so it was like cold, like sea breezy air.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just kind of took my breath away.
Well, in the case of sickle cell, what I think it is because of those like sickle-shaped hemoglobin cells, they're quite sticky compared to normal blood cells. So they can get caught up, they can cause clots, they can cause occlusions, which causes decreased oxygen. So if you think about it logically, if it's colder, what happens to the vessels, so the veins and arteries peripherally, is that they constrict.
Yeah.
So if you've got vasoconstriction, so constriction of those veins and arteries, then it's more likely for those sickle-shaped cells to catch
Get
up
wedged.
and cause acute pain. That's what I would say, and I think pathophysiologically speaking, it's probably the etiology of that.
So I think that is, from a scientific point of view, the best possible explanation, but I'm going to say that it's probably not true, simply because this same study looked at temperature and didn't find a link with painful attacks.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. I think your reason, and maybe there's a reason for wind causing vasoconstriction as well, maybe there is kind of like a... Because when it's windy, even though the temperature of the air might not be lower, the local temperature is lower because you're kind of carrying the heat away from your body. So I think you probably are right. But the air temperature didn't seem to make a difference that much.
Oh, that is very interesting from that study then.
Sickle cell obviously is a chronic condition. We spoke about acute pain before, so maybe this is a good time to segue onto more generic chronic pain. There was a a study looking at kind of a meta-analysis, so trying to look at loads of different studies and bring together a message summary for all of them. And they looked at 43 different studies that looked at the link between weather and chronic musculoskeletal pain. And they found that 63% of these 43 studies reported an association between some weather condition and pain, so whether that's temperature, pressure, humidity, etc. So it seems like the majority of studies do find a link, but maybe we can go into a bit more depth about what some of those relationships were.
There was one study with a fantastic name, Cloudy with a Chance of Pain,
I like that a lot.
from the UK, which assessed 6,200 participants on their perception of the relationship between weather and pain. So they were asked to rate their perception of the relationship between the weather and the pain, and their pain, on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being them not believing that weather was related to pain, and 10 being that they do believe in that. And they found that the average score was around 7. They said that humidity and high wind speed were associated with the higher likelihood of pain, and lower temperatures and pressures also was linked to a higher likelihood of pain.
So, in particular, they were looking at the likelihood of pain becoming moderate or severe. And so they looked at how much people's pain spiked into that moderate to severe range from the lower kind of range of a mild pain rating. They looked at how much it jumped. And yes, these were significant results, but actually when you look at how much change there was, it's not actually that big. So the biggest change they had was that a 10% increase in humidity increased that moderate to severe pain rating by 1.5%. So it's actually quite a small increase. They found that a 1 meter per second increase in wind speed increased the likelihood of moderate to severe pain by 0.4%. And then a temperature increase of 1 degree Celsius reduced the probability of moderate to severe pain by 0.1%. And so you've got really small changes, and this is actually a really useful point when you're researching your own pain. If ever you do dive into scientific articles, the danger of looking at statistical significance. So in these studies, they have come out statistically significant, meaning that there is a clear differentiator between these two conditions, but actually the change in the amount of people experiencing this pain is actually very small, but it's because it's got a big sample size, really, that you're seeing this. So yes, it is probably a relevant change, and it is probably related to that weather, but it doesn't necessarily make a clinically meaningful difference. And so I think we often use something in high quality research, not saying that this isn't high quality, but in kind of more clinical trial-esque research, we talk about something called a minimum clinically important difference. So I don't know if you want to give us a brief sort of talk through what that is, Josh.
Yeah, absolutely. Basically, MCID is the smallest measurement that makes a meaningful difference in a participant.
So it's like what's meaningful to the individual rather than statistically meaningful.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. One of the ways that we commonly calculate this is if you take an outcome measure, let's say pain from 0 to 10, for example, you then compare that outcome measure with something called a global impression of change, which is basically asking the patient from 0 to 10, do you think that this is better? So do you feel better, generally? So if you then took pain and you said, well, this day you reported a 6 and this day you reported a 5, and you also got them at the same time to report the global impression of change between those time periods, if they said, well, I feel much the same, nothing's changed about my ability to do things, nothing's changed about my mood, my sort of physical capabilities, then that would probably not be a minimal clinically important difference. Whereas if they said, I've had on this day a 6 out of 10 and on this day a 3 out of 10, and they said all of a sudden I can do more, I can get out to see my family, I can it means that there has been a meaningful change clinically for that patient. So that's kind of how we go about calculating that.
Oh. So we've talked about like meta-analysis, but I think something that's more relatable to the common person is Google searches. Mm-hmm. So, for example, if people remember when there was an eclipse in the United States, there was a big flare in people Googling about eye injuries and what have you, and damage to their sight. And if you tracked that against the path of the eclipse, there was the highest proportion of searches in areas that the eclipse went over.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
So it can really show what's happening within a population geographically.
Yeah.
And there was a study in the 50 largest cities in the United States relating to knee pain and hip pain, and it found that when temperatures increase past 30 degrees Celsius, searches increase.
Oh, wow. What about knee pain and hip pain?
About knee pain and hip pain.
Wow.
So apparently local weather is associated with higher rates of musculoskeletal pain.
That's
Now,
really interesting.
my question is, what is causing that? I think I've got an idea.
Okay.
Wait, so your question is what's causing the people to make these searches?
He's assuming that the searches mean people are in more pain.
Yes.
That they're getting to a point where they feel they need to understand it more.
Yeah, so I've got an anecdotal sort of working in the ED sort of idea. My thought is, it's lovely weather. Why don't we go out for a walk? Why don't we go for a hike? Why don't we go cycling? So then these people with chronic issues or predisposed to get injuries then overexert themselves and then have pain. That's my theory.
Yeah, to be fair, like I know that I've got a friend who does a lot of gardening and he lives with complex regional pain syndrome, and he always says that whenever it's a nice day, he'll go out and try and do as much as he can in the garden because he really enjoys it. And then the next day, it's that kind of boom and bust thing of he's exerted himself too much, the pain's got worse. Yeah, it's interesting.
I experienced it the last time we played badminton. The next day I was crippled.
That's because you didn't wear any shoes on the court, and it was a solid concrete floor on the court. Like, it was terrible conditions to play in, and you insisted on playing barefoot.
He didn't have trainers with him, to be fair. It was either barefoot or smart shoes, so...
Yeah, or hiking boots.
That's what it was, sorry, hiking boots,
hiking
not
boots.
smart shoes.
But he didn't help himself. He was lunging and jumping around a lot because I did tell him, I did try to advise him not to, but he was...
But he was competitive.
Yes.
And played very
Very
well,
good
to be
player.
fair. For someone who's
Very,
not
very
played
well.
since secondary school.
Yeah,
Was,
he did really well.
and that was 400 years ago.
17 years for anybody listening.
Just thinking about Google searches, there was a study in 2016 by Stasa Miljevic, and this just shows you, with my research hat on, that you can literally research anything. If there are two things and you want to find a link between them, you can research it. You might not get the funding to research it, but you can. So she did a solo study, just her researching it on her own. She was the whole research team. And she was looking at 3 years' worth of tweets, so Twitter, and I mean all the tweets, right? And she was looking at if people's reporting of migraines and headaches and whether they were getting better or worse. So if
On
you
Twitter?
On Twitter. So if you tweeted, oh, my headache's getting worse.
Do people do that?
Apparently.
Okay.
She was mining all of Twitter, so someone on Twitter saying, probably bots, but so she mined all of this data to see how people describe their migraines or headaches getting better or worse. And she then took this data and the reporting of kind of how many people said it was getting better or worse and tried to look at the link with geomagnetic activity, so like solar storms. There was no link. There was literally no link at all. But you know what? It just proves if you're just like, solar storms and tweets about headaches, you can do that research. Like anything you want to find a correlation with. It's like there's that website, isn't there? We'll put this in the breakdown for our Patreon subs, of the Spurious Correlations website.
My favourite.
Is it like cheese consumption and Nicolas Cage films?
No, it's pool drownings and Nicolas Cage films.
There you go.
Oh my
almost
gosh.
perfectly correlated. So the more films he makes, the more pool drownings there are in the US. Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll give you some more of those on
I think
on the breakdown.
I think Stasa Milojevic's research, I hope that was a better
attempt than me.
pronunciation, could have been maybe a bit more fruitful if she had done that a few years earlier, because I feel like 2016 was just past the time where people were venting on Twitter. Like, Twitter evolved at that point. Before that, people were just using it as their soundboard for anything and everything.
Yeah.
So they were just expressing all sorts of frustrations on there,
Yeah.
as well as other things. But yeah, they could have. She could have found a bit more research on there if it was before 2016.
So if she's listening to this podcast, then she can go back.
Go back in time.
Yeah. No, I mean she could just get
right.
the tweets.
Oh yeah.
She doesn't have to time travel. Don thinks every retrospective study involves inventing time travel. Yeah, so I want to bring us back to the theme of the episode. and I want to do this with a little game. Ooh. So, I don't know if you remember the study that Don mentioned a little while about, cloudy with a chance of pain. So, I thought, for this episode, I don't know what inspired me to do this, but I thought, I wonder what cloudy with a chance of meatballs translates to in different languages. And I found a guy who has done a really quite in-depth YouTube video ranking the foreign titles of, like the literal translations of foreign titles of cloudy with a chance of meatballs. So I want you guys to quickly get your phones or a pen, and you're going to write down different language names. Okay?
Different language names?
Different language names. So I'm going to tell you the languages.
Oh, right.
And you're going to have to match up the language with the foreign name. Okay, so pens and paper are at the ready. So the languages that you're going to have to match up to the phrases are Telugu, Telugu,
spoken in the southern part of India.
Is it?
And northern. Yeah, I don't know.
No, I trust you.
I don't know.
I was just asking.
It's some kind of Asian language.
Okay, Czech.
Spoken in
Czechia. Hungary.
Hungarian.
Oh shit, yeah. Israeli, so Hebrew. Thai, Ukrainian. And Georgian. Right, so phrase number 1, translated title number 1.
Are you gonna say this, or is it gonna be played?
No, I'm gonna say it. I'm not gonna play it in the language. Number 1, cloudy with a chance of same-sex relationships. So you're gonna link it to the country.
Okay, so it's
So
definitely...
you don't need to tell me which one it is now. We're gonna go through which one you think it is at the end. Okay. Number 2, cloudy, occasional wheelbarrows. Number 3, meatballs out of the blue.
Is it spelled M-E-A-T? Meatballs?
Yeah, not meatballs.
Meatballs out of the blue.
Number 4, falafel rain.
Oh, I love that.
Josh has immediately put which one he thinks it is.
1 second.
What if it's not that, though? That would be crazy.
Number 5, partly cloudy, occasional meatballs. Number 6, cloudy, possible precipitation in the form of fritters. And number 7, miraculous meatballs falling through dimensions. So, which one did you think, which language, was cloudy with a chance of same-sex relationships?
Thai?
I thought that was Georgian.
You are both incorrect, unfortunately. 0 points from the first phrase. You can't now change your answers, though.
Fuck.
Okay.
Second. Wait, give me a second just to decide on my answers.
You can't change it now that you've...
No, he's not even done them.
I just wrote them down. Stupid. I didn't think as fast as you.
Okay, number 2. Cloudy, occasional wheelbarrows.
Check.
Telugu. Yeah.
I just told you the other one was Telugu.
No, you didn't.
I said the first one was Telugu.
No, you didn't. You didn't tell us where it was. You told us we were both wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Well, either way.
I couldn't change my answer anyway.
Josh is correct. It's Czech. Cloudy, occasional wheelbarrows.
I should have known Telugu's... Wheelbarrow is not a commonly used word in Telugu.
Is it not?
I don't know, I just don't feel like it is.
No, probably not. I don't think it's a commonly used word in English, to be honest. Number 3. Meatballs out of the blue.
Yugoslav Ukraine?
Unfortunately not. It's not Ukrainian.
I know this is wrong, but I just panicked. I said Thai.
It's not Thai.
Is it Czech?
You can't tell. You can't guess again.
Oh, no, I'm not going to change my answer, but...
Number 4. Falafel rain.
I did have Hebrew for free, and then I was like, nah, falafels has to be Hebrew.
Falafels has to be Hebrew.
Yeah, you both got that one right. That's 100%. Yeah. Number 5. Partly cloudy, occasional meatballs.
I put that as Hungarian.
Incorrect.
Georgia?
Incorrect.
God.
Number 6. Cloudy, possible precipitation in the form of fritters.
I put Telugu.
Ukrainian.
Incorrect. And finally, miraculous meatballs falling through dimensions.
Oh, this is wrong. Czech.
Hungarian.
Incorrect. Josh, therefore, wins with 2-1, which, you know what? Getting 2 of them, I'm pretty impressed.
Okay.
I'm just going to say...
The Israel one, I think, the Hebrew was...
That was a given,
It was
yeah.
a given. Falafel rain out of those countries was an easy
It's
win.
raining
I'm going to be
pain.
honest, Don. If you'd have just put the same country for everyone, you'd have done just
I
as well.
know.
So cloudy with a chance of same-sex relationships was Telugu. Cloudy occasional wheelbarrows was Czech. Meatballs out of the blue was Hungarian. Falafel rain was Israeli. Miraculous meatballs falling through dimensions was Thai. Partly cloudy occasional meatballs was Ukrainian. And cloudy possible precipitation in the form of fritters was from Georgia.
Falafel rain.
So if you have any problems with my finding of those translations, I will link the YouTube video below so you can blame somebody else. Shall we maybe move on from there then to some specific conditions and their links with the weather?
Alrighty then. Let's go into arthritis.
A study of 18 patients with rheumatoid arthritis showed a minimal correlation between their pain and specific weather conditions.
So I think rheumatoid arthritis doesn't have much research about it in this field. So this is quite a small study and obviously didn't come out with any links. But looking at osteoarthritis, there's a few other studies, isn't there, where there's seems to be more relationship between that and pain.
Yeah, so there's a multi-European sort of studies that show almost 2/3 of patients felt that weather affected the pain. Yeah, so particularly like damp and rainy sort of conditions specifically. So like with 39.2% sensitivity for damp and rain and 30% for cold.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, out of those 2/3, it seems to be that damp, rainy, and cold are the ones that make your pain worse.
Interestingly, those who felt they were more sensitive to the weather conditions had significantly higher pain scores, as well as anxiety and depression.
Oh wow. So those who generally felt more weather sensitive, are you saying more higher pain scores in response to the weather, or just generally higher pain scores?
No, in general.
Very interesting. Actually, as well, what's interesting, it wasn't just those who were sensitive to the weather who had higher pain scores, but the ones who had the highest weather sensitivity were those that lived in a warm, dry climate. So I would have thought it would have been the opposite, to be honest. I would have thought if you live in dreary northern England like me, you'd think that kind of you'd probably be quite sensitive to the weather, but maybe just if you live with it all the time, you're kind of not as severely affected
You're just
by it.
numb to it, you're immune to it. Yeah.
Whereas those who lived, because Josh said it was multi-European, it was UK, Germany, Netherlands, Spain and Sweden, and it was those people in Spain in that hotter, like sort of more temperate climate who were most affected by
the Mediterranean.
I suppose you're conditioned to hotter weather then, aren't you? So I suppose maybe you feel the cold bit worse.
Yeah.
Interestingly as well, the weather sensitivity was more common in female than male participants with osteoarthritis. So again, there's so much that we're uncovering now, like biological differences, in the same way that in episode 13 with Zoe Clark talking about axial spondyloarthritis, it used to be seen as a male condition because of a lack of research, and now we realise it's actually about 50-50. And so we're finding out things like that there are things that we've previously not known about female pain, and so maybe there are biological reasons for greater weather sensitivity. But if that research comes out, we'll keep you posted.
I tell you who loves doing research on temperature and pain. I feel like it's the Australians.
Yeah, they've done a lot of the research we found has been in Australia, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So there was one study of 365 Australians with knee osteoarthritis, and which showed that a maximum daily temperature of more than 30 degrees Celsius compared to between 10 and 20 degrees Celsius resulted in about a twofold increase in the exacerbation of knee pain.
Wow. So hotter weather.
Hotter weather, more knee pain.
And how long did it take for this to take effect?
So it was about within 3 days.
So within 3 days, so if there's a heat wave, like bam.
Also, it's Australia, so it's hot a lot of the time.
Yeah. So within 3 days, the pain kicked in then?
Yeah.
Interesting. Especially given that previous study we spoke about, the one in Europe, found that it was the damp and colder weather that made the pain worse. Maybe it's just extremes of temperature. Maybe it's particularly hot and particularly cold that seem to have an effect.
Yeah, that would make sense, logically.
It's interesting as well, though, that like in that particular study in Australia, they looked at rain, humidity, and barometric pressure, and found that there was no link with the sort of pain from knee osteoarthritis in that cohort of patients. But in a study that looked in those same countries that we spoke about before in Europe, the Germany, Netherlands, UK, Spain, and Sweden, more rain and higher humidity were found to increase pain in people with knee, hip, or hand osteoarthritis.
Okay, so God help us over here in England where it's really humid and really cold all the time.
Yeah.
Well, it's almost like people are more sensitive to the conditions of the country that they live in.
Yeah. Well, except for Spain.
Except for Spain.
But there you go. I briefly mentioned just then about axial spondyloarthritis or ankylosing spondylitis. There's a lot of data as well, isn't there, about temperature affecting pain in AS patients?
Yeah, there absolutely is. And there's a study from China. We don't really talk about many studies from China, but they are a research powerhouse that's especially going to be moving forward.
Big growth in their research output.
Yeah, absolutely. And they've got such a large population that I suppose that they're going to have such high powers to their future research. But yeah, they found that at high temperatures, so they'd say that high temperature is greater than 32.9 degrees, which
those
is
are extreme.
Pretty hot.
That's hotter than the Australian ones, which is saying something. So yeah, they said that was a specific predictor for exacerbations of pain.
And they found that comparing it to a reference data set around 17 degrees Celsius, that it increased visits to outpatient clinics, like AS clinics, by 76%. So that's a huge, think about the financial output of that. In hot weather, they're getting a huge increase in the number of people coming for support with their condition.
Just because the weather's gone up by 17 degrees.
Which I know is a
well,
big
it's
increase,
actually, yeah, but it's actually more like double, yeah.
Yeah. Then again, is it correlation equaling causation?
Possibly, but it's a real significant increase.
Oh yeah, I would not want to go sit in a health centre in 33-degree weather.
God, no. You know what, though? I don't think we classically think of China as being a very hot country, and some parts of it aren't.
Yeah, I was just about to ask, because it's all above the equator. It's nowhere near the equator, really.
Oh, my friend. Well, South China's a bit close to the equator, but I have been to China for one day in my life, and it was on a long layover on the way to Australia, and I was in Guangzhou, which I've probably pronounced wrong, but in South China. And oh my God, it was so hot. We went out the airport and we were getting a shuttle to the hotel, and the shuttle had aircon, and we'd only been outside of the airport for like 10 meters to get into the taxi, so I don't think it had really clicked how hot it was. Oh my God, went to a restaurant. It was 40 degrees Celsius. It was the night time. And it was still that hot.
Gosh.
And it was like 100% humidity. I was just, honestly...
That is grim.
I was becoming a puddle. And that was the first place I ever saw, pre-e-bikes becoming a big thing. People had strapped petrol engines to a push bike.
What?
So they had taken a small motor and attached it to a push bike, and they were riding them on the pavement.
How does that even fit?
These used to be popular in the UK.
Did they?
Yeah, I remember them being called pedal and pop bikes. So almost like a little lawnmower engine on a push bike.
It was terrifying, because you'd just be walking along the pavement, and then someone would come at 35, 40 miles an hour on one of these push bikes with an engine strapped onto it. It was...
Well, yeah, they're so light, aren't they? So
Yeah, absolutely.
I kind of love that. Over here in the West, we have been switching over to cycling to save, to help with the environment. And then they're over there just
adding... They're like, this really fuel-efficient, energy-efficient transport system. How can we use fossil fuels?
Also, just for context, just looking at a globe in terms of equatorial countries, and China is, a good proportion of China is on the same latitude as Egypt.
No way.
Really? Yeah, he's not wrong. Wow, a lot of China is.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But that's the equator there.
Yeah, this is the equator here.
Yeah, but Egypt's still a very hot country, and it's not necessarily on the equator.
It's the majority.
Yeah, but that's
of it's
because
below
Egypt is also very dry.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
some
it's
parts
very
of China
arid.
are very dry. It's got desert.
No, that's true.
Yeah, something else that they found in that data set in the Chinese study was that higher humidity, relative humidity, was associated with a 10% increase in outpatient appointments within the next sort of week after the high humidity. So if you imagine that you've got this high temperature, high humidity at times during the year, you might have an over 80% increase, 85% increase in your like outpatient visits for AS.
Hot damn.
Very good.
And it says here that it was particularly common in young male patients. Lower thresholds, maybe?
Maybe.
Or maybe it's just there's more men with ankyspond.
Maybe.
In that particular population, but again, maybe we're falling into the trap and assuming it's a male condition, which
Exactly.
we now know from Zoe, amazing guest, that it isn't.
Yeah.
Look back to episode 13, I believe, was it?
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed. Jumping to another condition, fibromyalgia is another condition which has demonstrated a link between humidity and increase in pain, and also decreased pressure as well. They found that both of those were linked with...
Decreased pressure?
Yeah, so like barometric pressure was associated with worse pain in individuals with fibromyalgia in Norway.
Norway's putting out some good research on this, isn't it?
Norway is putting out a lot of good research. We're going to actually come back to Scandinavia when we talk about climate therapy later on. But,
Fantastic.
Yeah, very interesting.
Okay, so on the other end of the scale, lower humidity and higher temperatures were associated with an increased risk of a gout attack within 48 hours.
This is one thing that seems to be jumping out to me in this episode, and maybe it comes across to you as a listener, is that it seems so variable depending on the condition, depending on the geographical location.
Speaking of which, have we mentioned gout on the podcast before? Have we discussed gout?
No.
I feel like we've not really touched on that.
Not much.
Don had a wonderful idea many episodes ago that we failed to implement, and now is the perfect time to cut away to implement this. Don wanted, as well as having full episodes about specific conditions, wanted mini sort of snapshot 2-minute updates. So I think this is a good time for us to jump to Don doing a 2-minute what is gout. Baby, don't hurt me.
Don't hurt me no more.
Welcome to Pain in the Podcast, and in this segment we are going to talk about a chronic pain condition that you might have heard of but might not know a lot about. And today that is gout. Now, for me, it was definitely one of those conditions that I've heard of but never really understood. And so I thought I was the perfect person to tell you about it, after doing some research, of course. Now, gout has been around for centuries, well, actually a lot more than that. In fact, it was known as the disease of kings because it was linked to diets that were rich in red meat and alcohol. And records of gout go all the way back to ancient Egypt. In fact, I think Hippocrates even wrote about it over 2,000 years ago. Gout is a type of arthritis that occurs when there is a buildup of uric acid in the blood, which can happen if your kidneys aren't really doing its job of filtering uric acid. So when this happens, it can form crystals that settle in the joints. The common symptoms of gout include intense pain, swelling, redness, and heat, or a heat sensation in the joints. It's usually the big toe, it's most commonly the big toe, but it can also affect the ankles, knees, wrists, and even fingers. Flare-ups for gout can start with pain felt during the night, which is often described as extremely uncomfortable and unbearable, even to the touch of fabrics such as your bed sheets. But it can be a lot more intense as well, making it quite difficult to walk sometimes, especially if it's in the big toe. So how long does an attack usually last? Well, an attack can last from 3 to 10 days if left untreated, but it can go away completely after that, unless the underlying problem of the high uric acid levels haven't been treated. Now, to treat gout, there are 2 parts. The first part involves medications such as anti-inflammatory drugs, which can ease the pain and swelling during an attack. And the second part includes long-term treatments such as allopurinol, which can help lower the uric acid levels to prevent future flare-ups. Lifestyle changes are also a big factor here, so reducing alcohol consumption, red meat and sugary drinks, and making sure that you're hydrated whilst keeping a healthy weight can make a big difference. So yeah, I hope that has helped you understand gout a bit better. As a condition, it has not been blessed with the most flattering reputation, probably due to its disgusting name. I mean, come on, who came up with gout? It's just gout, terrible name. But I hope you now understand that it's a fairly treatable form of arthritis and not as repulsive as you might have thought. Hope you've enjoyed this little glossary segment here where we describe a chronic condition and have potentially learned something. Back to the podcast.
So chronic pelvic pain, there's a 1-year longitudinal study, so where they follow people over the course of a year, and they found there's no significant correlation between temperature, pressure, humidity, or UV and the incidence of flares in chronic pelvic pain.
Fantastic.
In inflammatory bowel disease, in a study in national databases in South Korea and the UK, they found that very cold and very hot temperatures were both associated with exacerbations of inflammatory bowel disease. And in lupus, they found that the highest active disease rates were in winter and that lower temperatures were associated with higher disease activity. So that's just conditions where there's not much research, but there's just a little bit to give you a little soupçon. But Don earlier on mentioned that a friend of his had worse migraine pain when the rain was about to come on. And I think there's a little bit more research about migraine.
Yeah, so when we look at diary-based studies, so that's people keeping diaries of their migraine symptoms, we found that atmospheric pressure is likely a trigger of migraines, which I find quite interesting. So,
That is very fascinating, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was in a previous breakdown we was talking about pain journals.
Yeah.
So this is just highlights how important it is and how it can help you to find your triggers.
Yeah.
So if you find that every time it rains, you get a migraine, for example.
But also pressure changes before rain are quite common, or during rain are quite common. If you think about a thunderstorm, for example, you can feel the pressures really high before the storm, and once it rains, it clears up a lot. So maybe it is that pressure change that's causing your friend's migraines to flare up.
Yeah. I was going to ask, do you guys feel that pressure at all? Do you have that high level of sensitivity?
I can tell when there's pressure changes in the air.
Not really.
I don't think I'm aware.
No,
Maybe if I knew it, maybe if I was able to recognise it once, I'd know it. But
Yeah.
And actually, if you look at the study that we just mentioned, it seems like it was a very low quality of evidence.
Yeah.
So there wasn't a very high number of participants. There was a low frequency of samples actually collected, and it was only a short period of investigation. So that doesn't take into account multi-seasonal sort of variations, and if people know what they're talking about in terms of, okay, we're looking if this is affected by pressure.
Yeah,
that could
how do
affect.
people perceive pressure?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's nice as well to reflect on. It's kind of what you hear in the podcast is we do a lot of research before every episode, and we read a lot of scientific papers, and it's nice sometimes for us to point out that just because a paper says something doesn't mean it's a high quality paper. There are journals that are better quality and journals that are worse quality, and we try to give you research that comes from high quality journals, or when it doesn't, we try to reflect on that so you don't get baited by a poor quality article.
Like if your Uncle Brian tells you about a study that he read and it proves something, it's very different if your uncle's Brian Cox versus somebody else.
Brian from Family Guy.
Exactly. But again, it's not just this one study that found this link with sort of pressure. Higher humidity as well, that tends to come along with that increased pressure, also is associated with increased odds of migraine onset. So it does seem like migraine, more than maybe other conditions, does have quite a consistent link between weather phenomena and its onset.
Yeah.
So, by the sounds of it, it seems like humidity is definitely one of the more common factors, as well as temperature and pressure across all of these different conditions. So, with that in mind, have you found a way to utilise this information for the greater good?
Well, actually, climate therapy is something that has been used, and I said we'd get back to this earlier in the episode. In Scandinavia, they've been exploiting the weather in order to try and improve people's outcomes with pain.
Yeah, the Swedes trialled a 4-week intervention of people with rheumatoid arthritis and spondyloarthropathies, where they flew them to Tenerife.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this wasn't a lad's holiday. They wasn't going out drinking every night. No, what they did was they had at least 3 personalised exercises each day from different exercise programs like hydrotherapy and the likes. And it actually resulted in over 80% of the patients having a clinically meaningful change in their health status.
Wow.
After they went home. And 47%, so almost half of them, maintained this clinical meaningful change 6 months after returning.
Oh, wow. So even when they're back in maybe a colder climate, they still see the benefits. Half the people still saw the benefits 6 months later.
Compared to the control.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so they actually showed as well that the cost saving of that, even the cost of flying to Tenerife and doing all this intervention, in terms of reduced healthcare use, that it's still worthwhile flying people out. So it's a bit of a shame, really. This study came from the early 2000s and they've not repeated this anymore. But I think it'd be quite cool if, like, you've got the Swedish arthritis holidays, you get to meet other people who have got the condition, fly you all out, have a bit of a jolly.
So my question is this then down to therapy and climate, or is it down to actually the positives? We mentioned, like with Chris, with the Scottish charity and what have you, about going out, being social, how that can affect it. Perhaps actually having a great experience with other people with a condition and going on holiday with them effectively to Tenerife.
Yeah.
Is that some sort of contributing factor? I don't know. Maybe we should go on a Pain in the Podcast holiday.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very good idea.
See how it affects our pain. I'd definitely be up for that.
I feel like we need to test it out fairly, so we should do both extremes, really, really cold weather and really, really nice hot weather
So
as
we should
well.
go to Scandinavia or
And
Canada.
Yeah.
I'd love to go to Canada and then go to Thailand.
I mean, I
not
think that's maybe a bit brave for our budgets, but yeah, we could definitely try. We'll try and go on a cold weather and a hot weather holiday, and we'll let you know how.
Or we could go to China and have all of it in one.
We could.
Yeah.
It's
No.
a very long commute in terms of across China to get the different weather extremes, but we can definitely try. Norway also jumped on the Swedish bandwagon here, and they sent young adults with inflammatory arthritis to South Spain, and again did an intensive physiotherapy intervention, and they found that physical capacity was improved significantly up to a year later. So even after a whole year back in Norway, back in the colder weather, they still saw the benefits of this in terms of physical capability. Again, criticising the paper, the control group didn't have as much physiotherapy input, so is it the amount of physiotherapy or is it the temperature?
Yeah.
But regardless, like, the combination of the two does seem to be an effective intervention.
So like an additive sort of...
Exactly.
Yeah, nice.
That's quite impressive, though, with them being young adults, to kind of get them to stick with that program is quite impressive.
To wrangle them.
Yeah.
If you take a group of 17 and 18-year-olds to South Spain and just like, no, you have to stay in the clinic. You have to, I think, yeah, it's, rather than me, those clinicians trying to wrangle those young people.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a randomised control trial, though, so I mean, it's almost as good as it gets. It's pretty high up in terms of reliability.
Yeah, the pyramid of research quality evidence is right up there with systematic reviews. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's a shame, really, that there's not more people who have tried to exploit this, because my granddad had quite severe asthma, and he had been told, his family had been told they didn't expect him to survive to 1 year old, and he made it to 81 years old. But him and my granny used to go on holiday all the time to places like Malta and Gibraltar, like hot weather, because he found it really helped his health. And so I think maybe there is a lot of room for healthcare exploiting weather-based therapies. So write in, let us know how much weather affects your pain and where you tend to go, what your best destinations are.
You know how in some countries they have, I think Dubai comes to mind as an example, they have like the ski village in the shopping centre.
What?
Yeah, so they had like, I think it's called the Dubai Mall.
Oh, they've also got this in Doncaster.
Oh, have they?
Escape.
Really?
Oh, Castleford.
There's one in Doncaster.
Is there?
Donny Dome.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I think so.
But my point was, it doesn't really apply to Doncaster. My point was, with the Dubai example, Dubai, extreme dry humidity, low humidity, high temperatures, right?
Mm.
But then they've got this whole Snowtopia ski village place inside the shopping centre. That's quite a contrast in temperatures.
Mm.
Could they not use that condition to simulate those temperatures, those weather conditions, to see if there's any possibility for that kind of climate therapy there?
I'm with you, but equally I'm not sure how happy the ski slope would be if they were just like, so we've got all these patients where cold weather makes them better, so we're just going to leave them in here.
like a bunch of penguins.
Exactly.
Just watch them waddle around.
Yeah. And I think with that, we come barreling towards the end of our episode on weather and pain.
But before we do come to an end, I had a bit of a question for the audience, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this. So please leave them in the comments. But I just want to know, with this episode in particular, we were kind of spewing out facts and statistics left and right. And I just want to know if, obviously with this being a podcast format, you're just taking it through audibly. And some people don't really understand facts, or they can't really comprehend facts when it's audible. I certainly can't. I kind of have to see it on a page to actually understand it. So if there's anything that we can do to make it easier for you guys to digest this information, let us know. And we'll try and consider that. Yeah, we'll try and find a way to improve it.
You can even see the show notes if you want, if that's the sort of thing you'd like. If you want us to start posting them on our social media or giving you access to them, you can see all the weird and wonderful things that we include in our show notes, including some of our odd prompts for one another, some of the bonus notes that we put in. And let us know what you like to see on our social media. We try to sort of summarise a lot of this information on our social media, but if there's things we can do to make it clearer, let us know.
Well, I think on that lovely note, it's time for us to talk about our book review.
Yes, indeed. This week, it is The Song of Our Scars by Heide Varreich. This is kind of a mixture of this individual's pain experience and wider sort of information about chronic pain. And it's got a really interesting kind of discussion of the future directions of pain management. And so this person is a doctor as well as someone living with chronic pain. And I'm not going to spoil it for you, but I think if you want to see a doctor's viewpoint on where pain management might go going forwards, then it's a really nice book to do that. It's got a strange cover, but...
Oh, wow.
It's a lot of neck.
It is a lot of neck.
Yeah.
Clavicles.
Yeah.
Great bone structure. Yeah. Really good, strong chin.
Very strong chin.
Yeah.
Looks like a horse's chin.
Well, yes, yeah.
No comment.
It's kind of hot.
So yeah, go give that book a read. And as we say at the end of every episode, if you like what we do here at Pain in the Podcast and you want to support us any more, you can go and find us on Patreon. Plenty of bonus content on there. The breakdown, our weekly breakdown of each episode. We have loads of sort of behind the scenes bonus content. We've got the 20-hour challenge. We've got On Your Marks, Get Set, Feed Me. We've got a video of me belly dancing. We've got plenty of videos of Josh playing the recorder. Tons and tons and tons of stuff on there. So if you'd like to support us for the paltry sum of £3 a month, then we would greatly appreciate it. And also, please share with family and friends. That is the most helpful thing that you can do for us, is tell everyone else about Pain in the Podcast.
Yeah, spread the word. Share on Spotify. Subscribe, whatever we do on Spotify. Follow, is it? Follow.
Yeah, YouTube.
Yeah,
subscribe.
YouTube. Yep. Massively appreciated. And on that note,
We'll see you in a fortnight.
It's goodbye from me.
ciao.
And it's goodbye from them. Goodbye.